Now I'll find it. Be able to find it. Okay. So we had built this structure here. Don't need this. Okay. Don't need this. So you can hit this button here if you want to close the files thing. This interface is pretty customizable, which is really nice. I think you can even flip it so it's top bottom, which is really nice if you have long lines of code, which you do in HTML. So see how it's skipping the lines. So this is actually all one line, which is unfortunately it takes people a while to notice that. So I'm trying to point it out. Oh, here's the thing that I'm going to mention every time. What are the basic parts of HTML? There's 3 of them: elements, tags, and attributes. And so if you look at what we have here, for programming. Oh man, I'm going to lose my train of thought. I should have finished my thought first, and then I'll answer your question. Sorry. The 3 things. So elements. See if you guys can tell. See if you can confidently tell me which thing on here is an element. If you can point out one. I'll do this after. I just want you to think about it. An element, a tag, and an attribute. Okay. So I would say there is a blank element on this page. There's a blank tag on this page. There's a blank attribute on this page. What would those blanks be? Okay, so think about that for a second. Okay. Pause the video if you want more time. Okay. So there is an HTML element on this page. There's a head element on this page. So you're just looking at this here. You know, in Replit, the light blue things are elements. So HTML element, head element, meta element. Okay, elements. Where are some tags? Okay, there is an HTML tag, opening tag on this page. There's an HTML closing tag on this page. So you get the idea. Elements and tags, very similar idea. They're very connected, but it's 2 separate things. Okay, tags is talking about the actual code that's being written. Element is the idea of what the structure is. So where we have these H1 through H5s, those are headings. So the H1 element, I'm thinking about, okay, larger text, a heading, where if I say H1 tag, I'm thinking, okay, open angle bracket, H1 closing angle bracket. So if that doesn't make sense to you at all, just about why they are elements and tags, just know the definition from the book is fine. Okay. There's so much in technology and programming that in the beginning, and some people hate this. Like, I'm not going to go into detail about what these meta elements are, because you don't need to know for what I want to teach you, which is HTML basics. This is more like web design, web development, end product type stuff. So you don't care about that right now. You just have to take it for that. You just have to include this. You don't have to know why. You just have to include this. And there's so much of that. The deeper you go and the more you learn, the more you notice the interconnectedness, and then things start to click, and that's the best. But unfortunately, it's not till towards the end does that happen. So you just have to kind of trust. You have to trust me a lot, and so that I'm telling you the right thing, basically. Okay. So moving on here. A little bit of rambling. Back to PowerPoints. Okay, so I might demonstrate. I'm not going to demonstrate block quote. It's very similar to the other ones. I do want to take a look at these phrase elements. Man, I really thought there was a way to full screen this. All right, I'll figure it out someday. Oh, question, right. Do you prefer light mode or dark mode when programming? So on a projector, which I am usually programming on in class, it has to be light mode for visibility, but when I'm programming on a monitor, dark mode for sure. I have this mod here, Chrome add-on plugin. I can't remember what they're extension. On Chrome, they're called extensions, and this is nice. Well, what's it called? You guys, it's called Dark Knight mode, and it's like a play on Dark Knight because it's Batman's face. But you can turn it on, and then in the browser, it just reverses everything so you can see it. But then it doesn't burn your eyes. So dark mode all the way when you're looking at a monitor for sure on anything. It always burns me when there's things that don't have dark mode, so it's nice for people to make an extension like this. If you use Gmail, that does have a dark mode. Deep's in some settings somewhere. Just Google it. How do I activate that? That's really nice. Okay. Also, when I travel, it's nice to be able to dim the screen as much as possible for the person driving. Okay. Kind of a weird random tip. Yes, phrase elements. Okay, so the elements that we've looked at so far, paragraph, line break, heading, and block quote. Well, we didn't look at block quote, but it's one. Those are all a certain type of element called, they're block elements. And so what that means is after each block element is drawn or interpreted onto the page in the browser, it goes to the next line. Okay, so I think I can do this right in here. I'm going to hit F12 to open the developer tools to use this element selector. So if I click that and I come down here to select this H1, you'll notice the blue is on here. That's the space the element is taking up. Okay, and so you'll notice it goes all the way across, and it might be easier to see in a new tab. So open in a new tab. Okay, here's my H1. All right, how much space is it taking up on the page? Well, it's hard to tell here, but if I open the inspector, and Alex, that's a good, I like that question you asked. If you guys haven't, any questions whatsoever about anything, definitely ask. Some people before the semester started were emailing me asking me about computer recommendations for the course, and I could just say any computer that opens a browser, so like any computer basically could work, but if you guys want some recommendations, I have some really cheap recommendations. The one I'm using right now was $500 refurbished on Amazon, and it's worked out pretty well for me. I tend to recommend people replace their computer every 3 to 5 years, and if you have a computer that's 5 years or more older than 5 years, you wouldn't even believe how much faster computers are. They double every 2 years. Okay. So, these are block elements. Every one has its own line, and so it's actually taking up that entire section of the page. Okay, so it pushes the next element down. The elements that we're going to take a look at in here, if I can find it, this was the PowerPoint. These phrase elements, these aren't block elements, they are inline elements, okay? And so I'm going to try to remember to mention which ones are block and inline as we go, but what I just said is a really good way to test. If it takes up the whole area space on the screen, it's a block element. If it doesn't, and it only takes up the area around the element, not across the whole page, then you know it's inline. And we'll go into more detail about what block and inline are when we get to that chapter, but I'll try to mention that about each element. And if you select an element like that in here, there's a section in Chrome. It's under styles here. So I'm gonna draw this console down, and then I'm gonna bring styles up. And here, if you select an element, okay, here, H1, these are all the properties, and in chapter 3 we'll learn that this is CSS. But the display property tells you whether it's block or inline, okay? So you can just look in there, or you can see how it interacts with the page. If it's in a container, well, let's just move on because we haven't got to containers yet. All right, PowerPoint. Okay, so how do we use these? So let's let's take a look at the bold. So B for this is the B tag for the bold element. This is the italics tag for the italics element. How do we use those? So if you want to bold a word or a phrase in HTML, so maybe I want to bold. I'll do this on a few different words here, and then we'll see what it says. All right, so on this element, on the word how, I am going to put an opening angle bracket, B closing angle bracket. Okay, so so I put the opening bold tag for the bold element. The bold element is a pair of opening and closing tags. It's not a standalone tag. And so what it does is it says, when the computer reads this code, it starts from the top and reads it down. When it gets to this line, here it'll say, okay, everything after this, turn bold. So if you look, if I run it just like this, so I put it right before this how. So notice, it just made everything bold. That's because there is no closing tag. When Chrome reads this file and processes it to the page, if there's any open tags, it just closes them at the end automatically. Instead of crashing, it does that. So it doesn't know. Computers can't figure out what you're trying to do. They only do literally what you tell them to do. Okay, so by forgetting to put my closing bold tag here, I told the computer to bold everything after the word how. Okay, that's not what I meant to do, but that's what I told it to do. Okay, so if it doesn't work, it's because you told it to do something else. We're learning a language to communicate to the computer, so, and it has to have perfect grammar. Computers are not smart. They seem like it, and they can think a lot faster and process a lot faster than we can, but they can't think on their own, okay? If you told it to jump off a bridge, it would do it immediately. It wouldn't question. Okay. Of course, it would need legs, but we're getting there. All right. So now I fixed it. The word how, bolded. And so in the next one, how about I put, where is it? Okay, bold here. We'll put italics around R. So my opening tag for the italics element and the closing tag. And I don't think I need to do more than that. I think we can move on. do want to show you though, if I select that element, so it's the B element for bold, and if I select it, you saw the blue part here only goes around the text because that's all the space it takes up. Okay, and it is inline. I guess it doesn't show down here that it's inline as a property because it's default inline. Okay. So now it says, hello, how are you today? And this one says, hello, how are you today? Okay. So you can add some emphasis on your words. But again, this isn't an English class, so I'm just showing you the tools. And towards the end, we'll look at how to use those tools to build, some end products. But right now, I'm just handing you the tools. Whatever you want to use them for, that's up to you. Okay, moving on to the next slide here. Okay, let's talk about the idea of nesting. Let's see if I formatted my code correctly here. All right, so we want to close. We want to be able to actually see the code here. Bring this down. And I think I can actually get rid of that. And I can just refresh this open tab. Okay. Come on. There we go. We don't need this. Okay. I think there we go. Wow. So all we care about is however you want to do it. But I'm going to have the code here, then I can reload this tab as I make changes, and it'll reflect that here. And just in case, because I'm not allowed to ask if anyone has any eyesight issues. So if you have any issues, I can say this. If you have any issues that you need addressed, all you have to do is talk to me. So color blindness, vision, anything, you can talk to me, or you can email Andy Gaines to talk to me, however you want to do it. But I try to do things before that. We'll cover that. So make sure I'm large enough so you guys can see this. Okay. Okay, nesting, right. So the code actually already has some nesting. So all it's talking about is, and on Replit you can kind of see this. So this HTML tag, every other element is nested inside of this. So if I minimize it, it's going to hide everything. Okay. In the head section, anything between the opening and close, this is for every element, anything between the opening tag and the closing tag, anything between those is considered nested inside. So all of this is nested inside. If I minimize it, I can see that. Sorry, when you talk too much, gotta keep hydrated. All right. Anyway, I think you get the idea. So let's do this. Let's see what it does. In Replit, they have this nice format document button. Okay, everything is becoming automated. Even this. I mean, it's a good thing. All right, because manually having to indent your code is really annoying. And I think any programming text editor will have this as a feature, or as you can get an add-on or something for it. All right. So that's nesting. You can nest, I think, pretty much any elements. Some that are open and closed tags, you can put things inside of those. If it's a standalone tag, you can't put things inside of a standalone tag, right? And I'm just realizing now we didn't talk about attributes, the three things. So remember the segue into the three things: elements, tags, attributes. We didn't talk about attributes. So this is, remember, head element, head tag, opening head tag. Okay. Attributes. Those are the purple ones here. This is the char. Some people say char set because it's character. So char set attribute. Here's the name attribute, content. Some people also say char set. href attribute. Attributes can have a value. Most are going to have values. Okay. So here's the value is UTF-8. UTF-8. It's in double quotes. The values are in double quotes. Anyway, what do? They just, they're basically values that the browser can grab onto. Certain ones are used to change settings in the browser. Okay, so this tells it what character set to use. Okay. This tells it, I want to access the viewport, which is just the window, and set the resolution of the page to the width of whatever screen I'm looking at. And so you can imagine what that would do. That's so it can know whether it's on a computer monitor or on a mobile phone, because one's landscape and one's portrait most of the time. So, you know, one's this way, one's this way. And so you have, there's actually a chapter where we'll talk about, you know, in the past, before we had this, every website was made for monitors, and then when we got phones with browsers, he would have to scroll left and right for every website, and it was just a nightmare. And so companies were like, all right, we're going to make two websites, a mobile website and a desktop monitor website. And so they had to hire, you know, double the people or pay the one person twice as much to make two websites. They didn't like that. So finally the technology changed, or someone, probably someone who said, hey, I want, you know, a really good job, so I'm going to change it so this technology only needs one person to make one website, and the website just changes between the two automatically. And I'm sure he or she, after creating that, got, you know, much kudos, and then everyone that so it was like, if you saw, spoiler alert for Avengers Endgame, stop the video now and skip ahead 30 seconds or something. It's kind of like Thanos, you know, got rid of half the people, so half the web developers and half the web designers lost their jobs because now one person could create. So screw that person. No, it's much better now. So now the small guy, so not even just the small guy, everyone can now have a website that works on both. So awesome job, person. Right, it's probably a team anyway that did it, not one person. All right, getting way off topic. Okay, nesting. Okay, I've never spent that much time on nesting in this class. Okay, so we needed to really understand nesting because these next few elements are, they involve a container element with some other elements inside, and so we can create lists, and we have unordered lists, which are just bulleted lists, and we have ordered lists, which are 1, 2, 3, or ABC. And I think there was a question on the Chapter 2 homework that wanted you to make an ordered list of that used capital A, B, C. By default, it uses 1, 2, 3. So how do you get it to go to ABC? If you figured it out, that's awesome. If you didn't, I'll tell you now. You have to. There's an attribute, and you have to change that attribute. It's escaping me now what that attribute is, but it is in the book. Everything that exercises ask you to do is in the book. So if you get to that question, and maybe if you haven't done it yet, if you get to that question that says create an ordered list that has capital letters instead of 1, 2, 3, literally go to the ordered list section in chapter 2 and it's right there. So everything's in the book. We're going to skip over description list for now. It's the same as the other two get used way more. Okay, so unordered list, here's the example of what that would look like. Here we go, this is what we want to see, the code structure. So we have UL for unordered list, open and close tags, and then within those you put LIs, open and close tags. All of these are block elements. LI is list item, and so each thing we want to have a bullet just has to go in an LI. Oh yes, Alex, you got it. Did you find it in the book? Actually, you know what? It is in the book, but if you can find it in Google, it'll be good practice on Google searches. Again, in technology, in this programming anything, Google is your best friend. Everything's your best friend. Copy and paste, Google. All right. Anyway, pretty simple structure. So you could even do this. Copy. If you copy it right out of here, unfortunately, I think it just puts it in a straight line. Let's see if it does that. I can't remember. So I'll just put this at the top of the... So remember, this is something that's going to show up on the page. So I'm going to put this in the body. Okay. Yes, it puts it in a straight line. And then, okay, Alex is confirming he found it in the book. So I have a witness. Okay. You can manually change the UL formatting, or I think, yeah. Such a nice little tool there, because that would have been annoying to type all that. I'm one of the most daunting things about this is when I show people the code and they're like, wait, you have to write all that? You have to type all that out? What is this, a typing class? Programmers try to minimize the amount of typing they have to do, so there's all kinds of workarounds. So if there's something particularly annoying you about doing this, someone has probably solved that problem, so just ask, and I'll see what I can find. If I don't, I'm trying to show you everything that I use, which makes it a lot more bearable. Okay. All right. Ordered lists. Same way. 1, 2, 3, 4. Throw this in there real quick. After unordered list. Okay. And then we can refresh here to see those lists. Okay. And then as a bonus, if you're watching the video up to this point and you haven't fallen asleep, we'll put this in here. And you can see with that attribute in there, we can do that. Okay. So I think that's I don't remember the number, but that's one of the questions in the exercises. So if you got that, if you couldn't figure that one out, you can go fix that. I'm gonna try to go over the exercises before I move on to the next chapter, so I might have to do that in my own time, but outside the live stream. But if you didn't get something, you can I keep the submission open, so you can go back and resubmit things. If I gave you a lower score and then you went back and resubmitted, I don't always notice those notifications. I don't know, off the top of my head, I don't even remember where those go. Just send me a message and say, hey, I resubmitted this, and then I'll go back and regrade it. You might have to send me a few messages, but I'll make sure it's reflected in your final grade for sure. So you can always go back and fix these, because that's my trick to make you think about it again. So I hold those points over your over your head to get you to look at that again. Sorry. It's a psychological trick there. Not really. My job is to try to help you. I'm not trying to trick you. Okay, so we got that. I'm not going to go over description list. Oh, I should say again. So unordered list and ordered lists have list items nested inside of them, and they are both nested inside of the body, which is nested inside of HTML. Okay, remember, this is the document type definition. You can look in the book or watch the previous video for what that is. That's another one of those, oh, I'll just throw that in. I don't need to fully understand why for now. Okay, back to the PowerPoint. Okay, so this thing right here. If you can remember this will separate you from a lot of people that are in this field. Or because it's growing so much, companies will they try to hire my students before they even finish the degree. Like, they're just trying to grab people. And so they will hire people that have minimal experience and may not know something like this. So I try to include as many of these and make a big deal about it in the class, as many of these topics as I can, to kind of give you that extra boost. So if you do coding examples for like a portfolio, which you can use your Replit examples, you can include some as, I do this, as workable demos, all right, for your portfolio. That's a really impressive thing for employers too. If you can demonstrate some, the assignments in the class, probably not showing those off, but if you build something using what you learned, and this is one of those things you want to include in that, and that is special characters in HTML. And what I'm going to show you probably doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but to some degree, it actually affects cybersecurity and prevents injection hacking. What is that called? It's not SQL. Well, it might be SQL injection. They can get some, basically they can slip code in, because when we're looking at a web page like this, what gets sent to us is this code over here. This code gets sent, and then our computer processes that in the browser to show us this. But we still have this, so if you can slip some code in here and that communicates back to the server, you can get access to things you shouldn't. So these are a way to prevent that, getting things that aren't supposed to be where they are. So you don't even have to know why that is, but if you use these, you're protecting yourself from those. Okay. So basically what these are is, and did they do this right, or is this a table? Okay. Nope. All right. These are character codes that if you put in HTML will convert into a character. So there's no copyright character on my keyboard. So if I want to include that in a web page, I can. I'll put this at the top of the body. Just put that in there. And then there we can include the copyright symbol as a character. Okay, so it translates that, and if we look at the code, so this is what Chrome sees it as over here. This is after Chrome makes its fixes in the inspector. Okay, if you want to see the code that it actually got sent, I think if you hit Control U, it should show us. This is the code that got sent from the web server, okay? And then over here is what Chrome has added to fix any problems. Okay, so there are a lot more of these codes than it shows on the PowerPoint. These are probably the most important because an these are characters, these three are characters that are used to do something in HTML. The angle brackets are for tags, and the ampersand is for these specific codes. So if you use these codes instead of these characters in your HTML, you're much safer. Okay, so I don't need to show you these because it's the same as this. But look down here. This one is also very important. NBSP. This adds, it's funny, I don't even think they put it in here, a space. Okay, why is that important? Well, I can demonstrate here. If I add, let me add a space between T, C, and P so we can see. Okay, I've added spaces. Okay, it's happy about that, it's fine. Now, I want to put a bunch of spaces here. Okay. It didn't reflect those spaces on the display, but if I look at the code it was sent, it has them in there, but Chrome took them out because the interpreter ignores every space after the first. Okay, why it does that, I don't know. That's an interesting, maybe I should look that up sometime. There's always more to learn about this stuff. Okay. So how do I get those spaces in there? You just use this code. One space for free, and then I have to use the code. Unfortunately, it takes up a lot more space than a space. But that will give you real spaces. So you can see them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anyway, so a few things about those codes. They're showing you these because you don't have this on your keyboard. These ones are to prevent people from, manipulating the code. These three. Because they're used in HTML to mean something. They're tokens that mean something else to the interpreter. And then the space, because you can only have one free space. All right, so that's where that is. Okay, so now let's look at something you'll be seeing a lot, the div element. Okay, so here's the code. What is the div element? It is a neutral container, an empty box that you can nest elements inside of. And you can, in chapter 3, we'll look at, you can change the properties to do whatever you want. Okay, so let me just show you. Div is, I believe, stands for division, so it's like it's a section of a page. It's its own section is the idea. You would organize things into divs. All right, and let's just look at Lakeland's site. I like to make an example of that. Lakeland, if I remember. Okay. Ooh. Bear with me here. Bear with me, I'm sorry. Just want to make sure I'm not intersecting with my other class here. I'm just going to talk straight all day on Tuesdays. Just all through the day. 1 p.m. Okay, we got plenty of time. The class only ended a half hour ago. All right. So, Lakeland site. So here we can see quite a few divs. This little box here is its own div. This little box down here, that kind of floats with the page. This red bar across the top, this black bar across the top, and this white bar across the top are each their own element container. And if you look, and we'll learn some examples of this later on in chapter 14 when we get to JavaScript. This little white box that pops up when we highlight over this, that's a div, and when we can see it, it's visible, and then, or when we highlight, it's visible, and when we don't, it disappears, but it's still in the code. It just is invisible when you're not highlighting over this. Okay, so that's just a div, and it's just changing a property back and forth. So it looks pretty fancy, but it's just a div. Okay. Keep that open for now in case we need to look at another example. So this picture right here, this is called a wireframe, and in chapter 5 we'll be building some of our own wireframes. The idea is a quick way to mock up a blueprint for a website. That's what a wireframe is. Because if you're building a website for someone, you don't want to spend a week or months putting something together and then show it to them, and then they say, well, I want this here and that there and da-da-da. I didn't like the way it looked. What you can do is create a wireframe like this, and then they can give you an idea of the layout. No, I don't like this. I only want 2 divs in the middle or whatever. They wouldn't say divs. They would say, I want 2 boxes in the middle. Then you got to know that's a div when you go to build it. But you can build that. I have the Draw.io diagramming tool. You could use something like that. You can use PowerPoint to build these. But we'll do that in chapter 5. But what this is showing is a lot of websites are built using divs. Okay, but you can use in HTML5, the newest HTML, it's been around for a while, has named section elements. Okay, so instead of, these would all be divs, used to be, but instead of using divs, you use these HTML5 structural elements to create some basic sections on the page. Okay, and what that does is it helps make your page more accessible. Okay, and it makes it easier to change in the future because you have a named section for basically the basic parts of a website. Okay, so you should have a header. In this basic example, you should have a header, so you can use the header element, a nav. So header, nav, main, and footer are literally just divs, so neutral containers. They work the same. It's literally just the names are for organization. Okay, and I need to say literally less. But they're just used for organization. And why does that matter? Well, people with vision problems and people who are blind can use the internet through software called a screen reader. Okay, and if you don't build your website to be accessible, when they access your website, what it does is it just literally starts at the top of the page and it reads the entire web page to them, which is not very useful. If you use these named structural elements, they can press some keys and skip to certain sections, okay, they probably are never going to go to the header because a header is usually just pictures, right? Okay. Going to the nav would be very useful if they want to navigate the website, right? And then main, if they want to see what is on the page, they can just skip to that. So it makes it much easier from an accessibility standpoint. So you have, it's ethical. From a business standpoint, it is gives your website a much broader audience. Okay. So why am I painting it from those points of view? Well, if you're ever in a company and you want to do a project, you have to get support from the upper levels. So your manager, potentially even the president of the organization. And when you do that, you need selling points. So you need to explain why the website will take longer to program to make it more accessible and why that is beneficial to the organization. And so it increases PR by basically preventing negative PR for having a website that's not accessible. I think right now state universities, or maybe all universities, have to have accessible websites. So if they don't follow accessibility standards in their design, they can be sued and fined. And I think that right now, and I haven't checked in a while, that may be the only organization that is legally required to do that. Most businesses large businesses are going to do that anyway to make more money, obviously. Because if there's 3 pizza places in town that you want to order from online, and only one of them has an accessible website, that's kind of a bad example because you could probably just call them, but you get the idea. You're going to use the site that's easier to use, right? Okay. So this is a wireframe example of a web page, and if you were going to move forward and build this, I think. See, here's basically right here. This is, and you could even save this as a template in Replit or something. Just save it as a file, and then you can always open it and then just copy it as a starting point for your work. So we have a body that contains the 4 subsections of the page: header, nav, main, footer, and then everything would go inside of one of those. Okay. The header, nav, and footer are probably going to be the same on every page, right? So you only have to create those once, and you can copy and paste that into every page. The main is probably what's going to change, so you'll mostly do your work in there once you have the others set up, okay? So you can start a web page with these sections. All right, so if we were going to do that in our Chapter 2 example, all right, what did I grab here? Oh, it's going to put it in a straight line too. Okay, body, header, nav, main, footer. Let's throw that up here. No, we need to put it inside the body, right? No, we don't. Okay, we don't need to grab the body. We already have a body. We don't have these sections. That's what we need to grab. Put that right inside the body. See if it'll fix it for me. Nice. Okay, so what had we put on the page was all of this information here. Probably gonna go in the main section. Okay, so I'll just grab all of this. And I'm going to hit Control X to cut it. If you don't work with computers a lot or typing a lot, you should look up text editing shortcuts, keyboard shortcuts. Control X, C, and V are going to be your best friends. I hit Control X to cut. What that did was removed what I had selected, put it in the clipboard. So now I can hit go up. I want to put it in the main section here. And I can hit Control V to put all of that in there. Okay, and then I'm going to just have Replit format that for me. Dink. Okay. And so now in the main section, I have all of that stuff. Let's see how that changed the page. Okay. And we'll refresh. Okay, so we have the heading with the text, main navigation. I don't know why I called it main navigation. And then in our main section, we have the same stuff. It looks exactly the same. Okay, so it's just for organization. It doesn't do anything to it. Okay, so that's what this is showing you. So when you go on to work on the, there will be some assignments where you'll have the page, the code given to you, and you just have to make changes. Hope, you'll see these and understand what they are. Okay, so everything in the body should be in one of these. Okay, in a correctly built web page. So I'm going to do obviously in the demo, I'm not following those rules, except to demonstrate. Okay, now a more complicated piece of this, but a very powerful one, and basically one of the key ideas that made the internet, or basically the web, grow so fast. Okay, so the the names of these things, these elements, sometimes they're intuitive, and sometimes they are dated. So unfortunately, if you've browsed the internet before, hopefully you know what a hyperlink is. Okay, if you don't, that's totally okay, but it's basically what allows you to travel between web pages, and it's what gives the web and the internet kind of a step up from like a physical book. Okay, and some people really prefer physical books, some people prefer digital. For textbooks, I prefer physical. I don't know what you guys think, though. If you get so many perks for using a digital version. You can your computer can search it nearly instantly for any word or phrase. Yeah, takes up less physical space, but it takes up computer space. And if it's PDF, it could be a lot. Anyway, so hyperlinks really give the web this perk of you can connect things directly together. So if you're reading imagine if you're reading one book, and it would reference something in another book. Instead of having to go find that book and open to that page and find what it's talking about, you could just instantly click it and go to that. All right, that is what a hyperlink does. And so in HTML, they're called anchors. All right, and honestly, I'm only going to call them anchors inside of this class because you need to know it's going to refer to it in the book, and you need to get used to using an A for a hyperlink, basically. So A is for anchor, which is a hyperlink. Okay, so here in the example code, this gets everyone. What element is this? Well, we know it's the anchor element because it says it right there. But what tag is this? Okay, let's break this down. So this is an element, has an opening tag here, closing tag at the end. Okay, this is the anchor element, and this is the opening A tag, right? And this is the closing A tag. And so what is this? We talked about elements and tags. What's the third part? It is attributes. So in an anchor element, in the opening anchor tag, we put an href attribute, and the value is the address to whatever file you want to open or web page, because web pages are just files. All right. Okay, so you put the address there. That's just an attribute. Attributes don't show up on the screen. So we need to put the actual text for the link that people can click on. And so in the beginning of the web, everyone would put their hyperlinks as click here because it's new and people didn't realize you could click on the screen and go to a new web page or download a new file. So they had to put click here. We want to avoid that now. Most people know how to use a browser or how to click things or touch things because now we have touch screens. All right. So let's throw this in our file. I'll put it at the top of main so we can find it easy. Right. And now if we refresh our page, we have that link. Okay, and then down at the bottom of the page, it shows me that it'll bring me to contact.html. Okay, so I don't know if you guys know that in a browser. If you highlight over, if you use a computer to browse anymore, down at the bottom of the browser, it shows you where it's going to bring you. Okay, so you can preview where it's going to bring you in case you're somewhere sketchy and you don't want to, or you're in your email, just never click links from weird people anyway, or things you didn't sign up for. Okay. Sorry, when I talk about hyperlinks, it makes me talk about computer literacy, and you want to avoid being hacked, you want to avoid identity theft. So might as well throw that tip out there. Be careful about where you go on the internet and what you download. Okay. So that's my link. Let's change it so it goes somewhere, because right now it's going to something that doesn't exist, so it'll freak out. The robot's mad. Okay. We don't want to make the robot mad. So we have to go back here. And that link was going to contact.html. So in my website, so I can put another file in my website. Okay, and it's going to let me give it a name. And so this link wants to go to contact.html, so why don't I make that file? Okay. New blank file. Remember, on these web pages, a lot of this stuff's going to be the same. So a really good starting point is just to copy the whole web page over. Okay, so I didn't have to type all that stuff. And then all you got to do is empty the main section, because that's the only part that's going to show up on the page. Or I'm sorry, that's the only part that will change on the page, right? Because your header, nav, and footer should stay the same, but your main will change. And then I'll just, so we can see something on the page, I'll just put contact me at 555s or www, or no, email, so 555 at 555.5. Okay. I think it was trying to automatically make this an email address. Let's make this .com. But it can be, there's a lot of these you can do. Okay. Domain names. So if we run that, we have, now we can go to that page because it exists. So that says contact me, da da da. And you'll notice what we're making right now in chapter 2 is hideous black text on a white background web pages. And the reason it looks like that for now is we're just trying to get the structure down, so we're trying to remove the distractions. Plus we don't know how to do any of that stuff anyway. I'm trying not to make your head explode. Okay, let's make a, now let's add a link. Now I'm stuck here, right? There's no link back. I mean, I can use back in the browser to go back, but maybe I want a link to go back to here. So let's do that. I'll stick it in the main for now. Actually, you know what? This sounds like something that should go in the nav. Oh, what did I just do? Computer is going so slow. Okay. So I want to, for my website has two web pages. The home page, which always name your home page index.html. Web servers are programmed, if you visit just, google.com or yahoo.com, they are programmed to hand you a file, and that's to start, and they want to give you the home page, and it's always called index.html. Okay? So you'll notice in Replit they always give you index.html. If you hit run, can I open the code back up here, or the preview? If you hit run, so I'm going to select contact over here and I hit run, it's not going to go to that file. It will always run index because I'm accessing it just like a website over here. So it always gives you index first. If you want to go to the other pages that you make, you have to include a hyperlink. So that'll bring you to the contact. Okay, so we have those two. So let's add those two pages to our nav. Okay, so inside of the nav, I'm going to do two hyperlinks. What is the element for a hyperlink? The anchor tag. Okay, we got to tell it where to go, and we use that by providing a value into the href attribute. Okay, so we want this one to bring us to the home page, which is index.html. Okay. And that's our opening tag. Now we put the text that we want to show up on the page. And this is going to be the home page, so I'll just call it home. That's what I want it to. They click home, it'll bring them to the home page. Okay, you can name it whatever you want for yours. Okay, that's one. Now I'm going to put another one. Put a little space here, but I'm not sure if that'll show up. Hopefully it will. So another anchor tag for another hyperlink, href. And I'll go ahead and push this down just so it's easier to see. And this can actually go down like that because these are nested in there. So this one is going to go to contact.html because that's what the file name is right here. And I can use the file name because it's in the same website and it's in the same folder. Okay, this area right here, if you want to be technical, this is called the root folder. So this is the highest level. We'll get to nesting, or we'll get to file management here in a bit. We're going to have to work with multiple files in here, so it's good computer practice. But if you mostly use a mobile smartphone or tablet, yeah, you may not have much experience with managing files, but you'll get used to it. It makes a lot of sense on here. It's really nice in Replit that it shows it all to you. It's not hidden. It's a little more intuitive that way. So anyway, we have contact.html. That's where it's going. And so we'll just put contact. I'll just put contact. And then closing anchor tag. And I'll refresh the page here. And so now we have home. Okay. And contact just brings us back here because it's the page run, but you can just keep it that way because it's easier. Okay, and then we built the nav here. It's going to be the same on the home page, so we can just copy that. So I did Control C to copy, and then in here, I'll find the nav. I don't need that anymore. I'll select it, and I'm just going to paste over it by hitting Control V. Okay, now I have this nav in here. I'm going to format. Okay, didn't do it. So sometimes the way they format their code may conflict with the way I do it or the way you think it should be done, which is actually one of the problems with programming. Is I could put all of these elements on a single line and this web page would still work, but it would be a nightmare to read. So we do this organization style just to make it easier to read. Okay, and so here I was trying to move the nav down so it could be indented. You could see there were two elements inside the nav, two links, and it didn't move the nav down. So probably their style is to put nav probably all in one line. Okay, but I like to do it this way. And so you may say, well, isn't it a standard? It's a standard to make it readable. And the way I'm showing you is my own flavor of that standard. So in this class, I'd like you to try and do it that way. It's a habit that if you learn on your own, it's a really bad habit. And so most people have that if they learn on their own. I'm trying to basically showing you the right way to do it in the beginning to hopefully set that habit now, because if you're not used to it, it can be a nightmare to have to learn it later. Okay, anyway. It's like trying to unlearn to ride a bike. So we updated our nav. So now we have a little menu of hyperlinks. We can go home. Or we can go to contact. And that menu's the same. Okay. All the links we've been using at this point are relative links. Okay, so let's talk about that. There are two types of links you can put on your page. They both are anchor elements, and the only difference is the way you, the value you use in href. Okay, if it has the protocol, so http:// you'll have to learn the difference between forward and backslash if you're doing programming or any kind of coding. So on a web page, and I don't know why they did this, but in Chrome, to see that, you have to like double click in here to see that. It always used to show it before. I don't know if they're trying to hide that because they don't want to scare people. Not like the rest of this is not scary, right? Oh, and I guess they're trying to gray that out so you don't see it as much. But yeah, it's weird that it doesn't show that. But anyway, if you include that with your, address to where you're going, basically the address to a file, that is an absolute link. And we use those for links that are going outside of our website. So if we want to link to Yahoo, we have to include the HTTP. Sometimes you can just go to the website and copy and paste the link right out of the address bar or address bar. If you're talking about a place, it's address. If you're trying to talk to someone or get their attention, you are addressing them. That right there is one reason that computer language comprehension, human language to computer comprehension, is very difficult because of that. Those kind of words that mean 72 different things, depending on how you pronounce them. Okay. And people would know what you mean anyway if you pronounced it wrong. It would just be weird. I'm going to put this at the top of main. Okay, sorry. Lost my train of thought earlier. Okay. So, whoops, it's not on the contact page. Let's use the menu to go back to the home page. There's my Yahoo link. These external links only work in Replit if you open the page in a new tab. So that worked, brought me to Yahoo. And sorry if you were trying to avoid looking at news. Wow. Ugh. Okay, we don't need to look at that. Actually, we do need to keep this tab open though. So if you accidentally close a tab in Chrome, you can hit Control, hold Shift, hit T, and it will open the last closed tab. And you keep doing it and open all your last closed tabs so that you don't have to go find your way back. So, okay, I accidentally closed our page with the web page on it. Okay. So, what type of, so here's your video quiz. So, what type of link is this? Is it absolute or relative? And then, what type of link is this? Feel free to use process of elimination. If you need more time, pause the video. Okay. This one's absolute. We know because it includes the HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol. I'm going to say what it stands for, but in this class, I'm not going to expect you to know that. Some of those acronyms actually just lose the meaning of what, like scuba stands for something, but I don't think anyone cares anymore. It's just scuba. So HTTP and other technology acronyms, they kind of do that too. So some of the weird words we use in technology are probably words that were acronyms at some point. Okay. So we have absolute link, relative link. Okay, and we know that absolute HTTP, relative because it's just a file path to a file. So this says find the file contact.html, and it will look in the root folder, and there it is, and so it knows. And that's why it's relative, because it's relative to your website. You can directly access the files. If it's a web page on another website, you have to go through Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Okay, which to go through that is literally just include this. Okay, I need to I'm not going to go back and edit this, but I need to include like a literally counter on this. So anyone that edits videos, anyone in the class that knows how to edit videos, download this and add in a literally counter. That counts how many times I say literally. Bonus, one extra credit point for making that. Okay. Something that's used, actually, this used to be used less, but now with mobile phones, it's used a bit more. Okay, so it says, let's look at the code first. So it's an anchor tag. Okay, everything about it is an anchor tag, the same as what we just looked at, except the value. Okay, so if you want to make an email hyperlink, so that means if they click on it, their browser asks the computer, what is your default email software? And here's the email I want you to send to. And then if the computer has, if you don't have it locked down, it'll open that. If you're doing it on your computer and you haven't changed anything and your computer is a Windows PC, then it'll most likely try to open Outlook, which, if you're just a person that wants to use email on your own, you would never use Outlook. So on a computer, it's not really that useful. But now that we have mobile phones, the mobile phone will allow you to change your default browser, or I'm sorry, your default, it does, but your default email app. Like I use Gmail, and that's a web-based email, so my computer can't open that. As far as I'm aware, if any of you guys know how to get email hyperlinks to open in Gmail instead of Outlook on a Windows PC, one extra credit point. If you can, tell me that. Okay. That's my only way to get you guys to do stuff for me. So the only difference in the value is you have to put this mail to : and then you just put in the email address. Okay, which is really weird to me because everyone knows how you can detect text. A computer can detect an email address because always there's rules, so it can just test whether it follows those rules. So why do you have to include the mail to? Let's test this, because sometimes things change, and this book is probably a few years old, and things change rapidly on the web, unfortunately. So if you do get in, technology field, you have to learn constantly, which some people like, some people don't. To me, if I stopped learning, I would get bored and probably die because I would have no reason to live. Just kidding. That was really dark. Okay, we're putting this on our webpage. Who are we mailing to? Me at Gmail. Okay. Put it at the top of main. Me at Gmail. Okay. That might actually be a real. Someone might have that. Okay. So we'll load that up. We'll try it. I'll probably try to open. Oh, whoops. Mail to. Whoops. Did I put it in wrong? No, I just copied it over. Bear with me here. I need to start writing down timestamps so I can cut these times out. href equals mail to. It might be a problem with mail to me at gmail.com. Yeah. Huh. Okay, well, I'll try it on. Well, let's see what it says in here. Okay, in main, mail to gmail.com. Okay, so I'm just going to try to manually do it. So I'm going to right-click, copy link address. Was there an option to just put that in the address bar? No, okay. And then I am going to put, I don't want this, I don't know what that is. I'm just going to put mail to, we're going to see if we can get around Replit here. I think it's working. Okay, so it says, how do you want to open this? Because I don't have a default set. Oh. Okay, let's see if we use Google Chrome. Let's see if we do that. What it will do. All right. Forgot my email. At lakelandcollege.edu. Hi, test. This is a test. And then, if we try to send it, and then, okay, hi I have my email pulled up in the other tab, so you guys won't be able to see this, which is probably for the best. Okay. You'll just have to trust me on this one. Did I get the email? Okay. Oh, God. Oh, man. So many emails about not being able to access the stream. So sorry, guys. Should not happen again. Let's see if it sent it to spam. I think it did. Nope. Okay. So many political emails. They really want you to vote for them, don't they? Well, I don't see it. Somebody remind me to check during the next live stream. 1 bonus extra credit point to see if I got that email. I guess actually I'll probably notice myself, but since I said it already, I'll do it anyway. Okay, anyway, sorry. Okay, anyway. Oh, it probably didn't even show you the email thing that popped up. So it popped up my Mail app, which I think is the Windows 10 default, which I guess I had set up with Outlook to use my other accounts. Or it automatically did that. I don't even know. I don't remember doing that. Some of that stuff's scary, but who knows what about you is scary these days. But you really need to remember that it's not as there's a few simple rules you can follow and you'll have no problems. Just basic computer literacy. Okay, so I'm just checking my Gmail real quick to see if it is in my sent folder. The internet's give me some problems here. Oh, there it is. Okay. And nope, doesn't show up there. So I guess I'll have to recheck that out. Anyway, if you're on your mobile phone, it'll use your default app. So it opens, for me, it opens in Gmail. So okay. Is anyone watching? Oh, okay. Alex, sorry if you're not here anymore, but if you watch this later, I'll answer your question. So the question is, what's the difference between HTTPS and HTTP? Okay, so if there's an S, what that means is the website has a secure connection when it's sending files. So it has modern, standard, basically correctly set security standards to meet the requirements to get a security certificate so that they can send any communication back and forth encrypted. So that way, if someone taps the line and gets some of the information, it's nearly impossible for them to put that back together. Okay. And yes, there are situations where people can physically tap into cables and get information. It's probably a felony, so don't ever do that. So probably no one ever does that because the risk to reward is so small when it's so much easier to use something called social engineering where you literally ask someone for their password and they tell you, okay? Which you may be surprised at how many people are willing to do that. Okay. So, I think that I might wait to move on till the next stream, and so if you need anything, make sure you email me, and I'll see you guys later. Okay, if you stayed till this far, one more thing about HTTP and HTTPS. If you are buying something online or putting information into a website, check the address at the address bar and see. So in Chrome, okay, let me pull it up here. In Chrome, you can see this lock here. Okay, that's telling you it's HTTPS. Connection is secure. Its certificate is valid. It shows you what, because of Europe or a country in Europe, I don't remember off the top of my head, websites now have to legally basically tell you when they're using cookies. So now we can see, cookies. I don't know what this is. Let me look to this. Anyway, I'll look at that later. Yeah, so if you see that lock, or in the address bar, if you see that has HTTPS, you're safe. If it doesn't have that and it's HTTP, don't send your information through there, because that website is probably not, they haven't thought about cybersecurity, so they're probably a very big liability of getting your information stolen, potentially. So if it has HTTPS, though, you can rest assured that whoever built that site at least knows enough to set that. So your information's always at risk when you put it out there, but it's something you shouldn't really lose sleep over. Just get some identity theft insurance or something. It's like $100 a year if you're worried about it. Okay. And don't use your name as a password. I had a friend that did that. Don't use your birthday. Don't use any single words either. Okay. Oh, the longer you make your password, the more secure it is. Don't make it insane. I think 14 or more characters at this point protects it from brute forcing and rainbow tables. So you can Google what those are. Or, I'm not sure if you can see the other videos on my channel. If you can, I think in my first Python video, I talk about web security with brute forcing and password security, because I wrote a demo program of how a brute force program could get passwords. So you can watch that if you're curious. Some of you guys might be in that class, I don't know. You can watch that if you're curious, not a requirement. You might, if you're in programming, if your major's programming or any of the IT, you might take that Python class as an elective, or it might be part of your program. So you can get a little preview if you want. If you can't find it, let me know, because I'll try to make it more visible. Okay.